Hey there folks, Bryce Holdaway, he is Ben Kingsley, we are the hosts of The Property Couch, and we thought we would do a very quick Facebook Live, did we Ben? Because,
we did. Hot off the press, Bryce.
Observing social distancing here.
Yep, we are.
Including the figurines.
Yes.
But, folks, we actually went this morning and did our recording for The Property Couch that went live today at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard. It's still daylight saving time.
Next week or the week over.
However, there was a couple of updates that we thought would be really important to do based on the fact that it's really relevant to what our discussion was this morning.
Very, very relevant. Yes, we have new information.
So a couple of things that we want to update you on, sort of as a, what would you call it, as a footnote to that podcast at propertycouch.com.au.
Sounds like a good idea.
So why don't you kick it off, Ben?
Well, the big news out of Queensland, Queensland leading the way, is that the Treasurer, Jackie Trad, has announced an emergency rental assistance payment of up to $500 per week for up to 4 weeks.
Yep.
So now she's stressing that it is an emergency. It's almost like a bridge, right? Because effectively a lot of the job seeker payments for those people who have lost their jobs, so it's for people who have lost their job, and those payments for those people who lost their jobs don't kick in until the 27th of April. And it's also on the back of what the Prime Minister announced, which was the end of the 29th of March, that there's going to be a moratorium in terms of not being able to evict tenants. So we love that idea, but we're also getting a little bit more clarity around the circumstances, right? So I'm just going to spend a moment in terms of talking about this. So it is for emergency assistance only, right, for those people who qualify. Now, they can call the Residential Tenants Authority in Queensland on 1-800-497-161. That's 1-800-497-161. Now, she also acknowledged that the state government will be putting into law the eviction moratorium, and that will be backdated until the 29th of March. And again, genuinely impacted people. It's really important to understand based on job losses from the coronavirus. But here's another message, which is new information to those people watching on Facebook Live, but also to our community. For the tenants that do things that would ordinarily see them evicted, such as significant damage of the property or the owners themselves needing to move back into the property because of their own financial distress, then effectively it's not a blanket prohibition. So in other words,
it's effectively saying do not overdo this.
So I think that's really important to understand. That it really is about trying to make it's an emergency package. These are vouchers that they're going to issue via the Residential Tenancy Authority. And I think it's also important that sends a signal potentially to other states and territories that there are people out there, a minority who need this money now. But we also have other clarity around, what they're saying around tenants paying their rent, because there is still misinformation out there that people think that they don't have to pay their rent. That's not true.
Well, you're right, because we talked about the fact that we don't want it to be seen. You just mentioned then that if someone does something that causes them to be evicted, they can still be evicted.
Correct.
With one exception, and that's someone who has a loss of income through COVID-19. So that's an important clarifying point. And we went to some lengths on the podcast to talk about the fact that this isn't a moratorium on paying rent.
No, definitely not.
It's a moratorium on making sure that people who are vulnerable aren't kicked out. So in the Property Observer, Ben, they had an article that came out today, and they were quoting the Housing Minister, Michael Sukkar. So he's clarified what the 6-month moratorium on evictions actually means. So the ABC's Patricia Cavalis was interviewing and asked a very simple question. If people can stop paying rent if there's a moratorium, Ben? And this is the response. The short answer to your question is, of course not. There is a moratorium on eviction, but there's not a moratorium on the requirement to pay rents. And that's an important point. There is a moratorium on evictions, but there is not a moratorium on the requirement to pay rents. The Housing Minister said it's useful to separate commercial and residential, goes through, backs up a couple of things that the Prime Minister was saying. But this is what Mr. Sukkar said. It's not in any landlord's interest to lose a great tenant who may be going through short-term difficulty. So that's essentially everyone working together. We're seeing a lot of landlords and tenants working closely together but we need to put in some minimum standards, and that's what I'm confident the National Cabinet will do. So this clarification from the Housing Minister was welcomed by the Real Estate Institute of Australia, where President Adrian Kelly said this: a moratorium on evictions doesn't mean rent is not payable. If circumstances mean that payment is in full is not possible, it is a holding off from payments, not a cancellation.
Mm-hmm.
It
Correct.
is a deferral.
It's a deferral.
So it is for people who cannot pay at this time, not for those who can. If you can pay your rent now, you pay it. If you can't pay your rent now, you've been given grace for 6 months, but we'll have to catch up when you're able to pay it again, Ben.
So there it is. So Queensland have led the way here. They're offering these grants through the Residential Tenancy Authority, which is called up there in Queensland. So if that applies to people that you may know, it's important to understand that. So, but they're vouchers. We don't know the detail in terms of how they're going to be served to the property manager. We don't want them obviously to be used for other purposes. So I suspect they will be a voucher that they give to the property manager. The property manager will then adjust that in the software, and that's how it'll go, because we don't, again, want it to be seen used for other reasons or other purposes. But good on Queensland Government for taking the initial step to get people over the line until those rental seeker payments start kicking in on the 27th of April.
Now, folks, Ben and I want to provide some resources to help people through the COVID-19 health challenge that we're facing. And the first port of call is to make sure that your own personal circumstances are lean and mean, Ben, so that you can actually navigate yourself through the crisis. So we are making available, if you go to the website that you'll see just here shortly.
There it is.
MakeMoneySimpleAgain.com.au. We're actually going to give a copy of our book, which is essentially a user manual on how to build a system that allows you to manage your money within 10 minutes a month. And folks, it is so incredibly simple that it's got one offset account, Ben, it's got one credit card, it's got one debit card, that is it, plus your passive loan account. So you'll actually see how that works when we go through all of those 7 steps that you need to go through to set that up. We're actually making that available to you for free. And if you go to MakeMoneySimpleAgain.com.au, when you go through and choose the book, we'll actually show you that there's a platform that you can administer all of what we're talking about, so you don't have to have all those spreadsheets running around, and actually get it done very, very simply for you. So the platform's for free, the book is for free, you can check it out.
It's an OBS money system that actually works to help you trap your surplus, organise your money and thrive. Real simple, and that's the instruction manual to get it done. So please, this is the best time to organise your money, so you never have situations where, unfortunately, like some of these people who have emergency situations because they had no savings, they have no other financial support. We don't want to see that for anyone in Australia, so please check it out, and it'll be helpful for you.
That's right, Ben. I overtalked you there, sorry, at the end of that, but you go to MakeMoneySimpleAgain.com.au, and folks, check out each and every week. Ben and I are getting up to date on all of the latest events as they come to us, how they affect property, finance and money management. So that comes out every Thursday at 3 o'clock. The latest episode is available and out now, so you should check that out at thepropertycouch.com.au.